Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is March 11th, 2025. This is the airport advisory meeting. The first item, of course, we should take a roll call. If Penny, if you'd be helpful.
Sure can. Commissioner Lance, I'll mark you as yes. Carla Reynolds. Okay, no Carla. I know that Joe let me know he wasn't going to be here today as well. Alana?
Here.
Kara? Okay, I'll mark her as no. Kelly?
Here.
Nate?
Here.
Ethan?
Here.
Thank you. TR?
Here.
And Amy?
Here.
Okay. I still count that you have 7, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Okay. I imagine everyone has had a chance to review the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions from it?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Amy will
Support.
second.
Who seconded it?
This is Alana
Thanks, Ilana.
or Kelly.
There's been a motion to approve the agenda with support. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, agenda has been approved. Thank you. Next item is the review of the previous meeting minutes. Get a motion.
Make a motion.
Amy will make the motion.
Okay, Amy made the motion to approve. Second.
Nate.
Thanks, Nate. The motion has been made and approved. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from December 12th, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? None. Minutes have been approved. All right. Next item is the update from the airport staff. Mr. Phil.
All right, thank you, everybody. Share my screen here. Okay. Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first quarterly meeting of 2025. It's already mid-March. Hopefully the weather sticks around for the rest of the spring. Today's, let me get the, there we go. Today's agenda is going to focus on some development that we have ongoing at the airport, give a recent update for the ALP, give you some dates for the air show, and that's really it. We'll go over kind of some upcoming meetings to fill out the rest of the year. I know we usually just pick the next meeting, but this time around we're going to pick the remaining meetings in the calendar year. That way everyone has an idea for the rest of the year what that'll look like. So we've given some options for folks. We'll go over those so we can have that for the rest or the remainder of 2025. So if folks have had a chance to drive down South Airport Road, or if you've driven by the airport and you've seen what looks like a building going up, WACO has 2 weeks ago started the structural work on their new facility. So it's a $12 million, 45,000 square foot facility. It's going to primarily focus on their Junker line. If any folks were at the Centennial that we had back in September, they did have a model on display there. It's kind of an aluminum open cockpit, smaller single engine aircraft. And it's underway, construction's underway, so you'll see some construction fencing. Doesn't really affect too much of the airfield itself. It's all outside of the fence, as we term it, so it doesn't impact any taxiways or runways, but it is right there on South Airport Road. So we're working with the contractors and the developer to make sure that we have minimal impacts during some of the utility connections and some of the heavier equipment moving. But they're on pace to finish right around the end of the year, even beginning of next year. We're very excited. Haven't had any issues so far, and we're looking forward to see what the new facility looks like. Got a couple more pictures. Again, these were just taken yesterday. again, it looks really nice. It's going up. The steel hasn't taken too long. I'm sure they've even added some more since then. But if you drive down, feel free to just take a look. It's pretty much right in front of, if you've ever been to Waco, it's right in front of their building there, right on top of that parking lot area. So you shouldn't be able to miss it. And you can see it from Columbia too. So if you just got to know where you're looking. But I guess any questions on the Waco expansion before I hit to the next item? All right. So ALP update. I know we've been talking about this kind of ad nauseum, but we did have a really kind of big moment in terms of the ALP. So where we're at now is the Office of Aeronautics with Michigan Department of Transportation has spoken with the regional office of the FAA here for the state of Michigan, and they went over some of the findings. So some of the initial data that was gathered, some of the proposed alternatives at the airport and the consultant that put together. And then based on that information, the FAA informed MDOT. And I would say also too, we weren't necessarily invited to this first one. We prepared all the material for the state. So the state and the FAA met last week. We weren't involved in it. We'll be involved in future meetings, but this is kind of an icebreaker meeting just to see where the ALP is at in terms of all the data. So neither the airport nor the consultant were at this meeting. But I was told that based on the findings of all the data that was gathered, the projections that the consultant put together, and the interviews that were done with all the tenants, the FAA doesn't see financial support being given to the smaller parallel runway. And I'll give you an idea which one that is. It's the one, if you ever drive down Columbia, it looks, if you look off to the north there, it's right next to you. It's not the larger runway, the 10,000 foot runway. This one's just over 4,000 feet. So what does that mean for the airport going forward? Well, we're still going to have additional meetings to just see what those details would be throughout the remainder of this year. How airports or how infrastructure is funded is the airport receives certain entitlements from the FAA. Based on that amount, you can go ahead and apply for, in our case, it would be discretionary dollars from the FAA, from the federal government. You can also get some apportionment dollars from the state of Michigan as well too. So there's different ways you can go about funding either taxiway or runway rehabilitation or reconstruction. The runway, the parallel runway, is about 15 years old in terms of pavement. 1 out of 1 through 100. 1 being very bad, 100 being very good. The runway is at about a 50, so it's about where you'd expect it to be after about 15 years. But right now, the FAA has told us that, hey, we're not expecting to give you or give Battle Creek any discretionary dollars or any federal funding to support that runway. So we kind of knew that was going to be a possibility just because of the current operations that we have here at the airport. We'd basically need about 150,000 plus operations to have that runway qualify for federal funding. Right now, just to give you where are we? Last year we did about 85,000, 87,000 operations. The airport tends to go back and forth between 85 to about 95, I'd say, is average. Kind of an outlier years that we've seen over 100,000, but I'd say for the most part, since I've been here over the last 3.5 years or so, it's been into that 85 to 95,000 operational activity range. So based on those numbers, the projections that the consultants put together, based on the tools that the FAA supplies to airports, they don't see us getting into that, really breaking that threshold of needing a third runway. So we have the primary runway, it's about 10,000 feet. We have the crosswind runway, it's about 5,000 feet. And then we have this parallel runway here. So you've got Columbia down to the south, Helmer over to the east. Again, our offices are just here. This is South Airport Road, kind of dead ends right into that runway. folks have been around for 20 years. This wasn't always here. These roads actually connected through where you had territorial and roads going through where this runway is. So those have all been cut off right here and right down here. So the kind of next steps that we have is just really again looking at and making sure that, okay, is the FAA truly not going to fund this space, then what is the airport going to do, or what are the requirements that we're going to have? So we do have this is really a short term, we'll say over the next 2 to 5 year range of what we could still do with that area or with that land while it's still a runway. So keeping it as a runway and keeping it well maintained, we put about $100,000 worth of mastic or really sealant kind of crack repairs and paint into it last year. So it's in I'd say pretty decent shape right now. There's still some longer terms, just like any road that I'm sure any of you have driven on. You can see where it's starting to, okay, this road probably needs some work, and then this city or the state might come out and do some repairs to it, but they might be temporary. And then you eventually see where those repairs really don't do much, or there's just too many potholes, there's too many cracks. So it can get to that point pretty quickly once you get to having these larger cracks or these larger areas. There isn't, I would say right now, there isn't any operational danger for keeping it open. We did have it closed for a period of time last year, just waiting for the state to show up and kind of make some of those repairs. Right now, we're comfortable with where the airport's at. Again, it's in pretty decent shape. The markings look great. So there could be some possibility for development in this area. East Airport Road used to be a portion of, or really used to just be territorial as it would go through the airport here. There's some area over here off of Helmer, and there's some area over here off of South Airport Road that we could develop in the meantime. But the east side of the runway, obviously, if the FAA is telling us now, well, it's not looking like you're going to receive funding to rehabilitate or reconstruct this runway, then you get into, okay, if that's the case, what's the future for this airport, or what's the future for this side of the airport and this runway? And if it does get to the point where they say, hey, yeah, we're not gonna give you any money for that, it really wouldn't be financially in the best interest of the airport to maintain it. We've got a lot of other pavement, the 10,000 foot runway, a 5,000 foot runway. That's all paid for through FAA grants and through federal grants, with some state grants as well. And it really just would cost way too much, and we could use those assets somewhere else. You could easily redevelop this area, whether it's with hangars and office complexes, kind of like what we see with the FAA and the old Kellogg hangar, or just some kind of production or other facilities like you would see at Waco or Duncan over there. There's also on the right-hand side here some opportunities for some development too. So really overall, you've got nearly 100 acres worth of development here that you could see in the future. What would the impacts be to the airport? Well, it's definitely always nice to have an additional runway. It's certainly useful right now. We do use it. I'd say Western is the primary user. In the past, before we had this runway, so about 20 years ago, traffic primarily was just using the longest, or 2-3 right of the primary runway there. There really wasn't too many, I'd call them, it's kind of a stretch to call them delays. You can certainly fill up a traffic pattern here pretty quickly when you have 3 or 4 planes in the pattern, a couple planes coming in. So it can be a little busy, but you've got a lot of airports very close by. You've got Kalamazoo, Hastings, Three Rivers, Coldwater. Then you've got other places like Lansing, Jackson, stuff like that, not too far. So we're pretty confident that this isn't going to hurt the airport in any way. If we do eventually throughout the year hear from the FAA that they are not going to fund this, again, was a very preliminary meeting, but just from that meeting and just from them looking over the numbers, They don't think they will be. Again, they have to go through some internal processes just to go over that and make sure all the numbers were accurate and make sure this isn't going to do anything like shut the airport down. So a lot of the times, if you're looking at small airports that just have one runway and there are certain criteria, the FAA doesn't want to do anything that would hurt kind of aeronautical activity at those smaller airports. But since this is a third runway, they really don't see any problems with that. And we have some plans, or we've looked into different alternatives such as this to say, okay, if in the future this does, the FAA does want to close this runway, what could we do with it? So we've already got some plans in place for the future to see if we can develop that area as well. So we've talked about kind of the west side of the airport, whether that's for UAS or advanced air mobility or some other traditional type of aeronautical development. There's also now the possibility of developing this east side, which would probably be a little easier. The ground's obviously flatter. It's got a runway on it, so it's already prepared in terms of utilities, access to the airfield. You wouldn't have to build additional taxiways or runways or anything. You could build additional ramps and things like that, but you'd really just be building off of the existing infrastructure there. So it would be not only a lot more cost effective, but a lot quicker for development as well. So that's a lot of information. Again, this was kind of, we've been waiting for this meeting to take place for the last several months. Even in December, we were hoping that we would get this meeting in kind of the December, January timeframe. They just couldn't find a time to meet, so they did finally meet at the beginning of this month. And are there any questions or concerns or comments or anything like that? I know this is again a lot to take in. I'll continue to update this advisory board if there's anything that changes between now and the next meeting we have in June. But are there any questions on what I just hit on there?
No, thanks for the explanation, Phil. The one thing I was curious about is the 10,000 square foot runway, or 10,000 square feet runway. Is that still in question, whether or not we're going to get full funding for support of maintaining that runway, or where do you think we sit with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. They haven't hit on that one yet, Nate. This was, I'd say, if there's a laundry list of infrastructure needs that the FAA looking at supporting here, they haven't even talked about 2-3 right yet. I don't. Again, we've put in some things, hopefully legislatively, and even doing something like this where you're almost like bartering with the FAA with saying, hey, we'd be willing to give this runway up as long as 2-3 right stays at 10,000 feet. We don't have it in our plans for that to go away, and we haven't heard anything from the FAA that would suggest that. But they didn't. That meeting that they had last week didn't focus on that or any of the other pieces. But we haven't heard anything, and we don't necessarily anticipate that runway getting shortened or more narrow or anything like that.
Good. Thanks, Phil.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? All right. I'll just quickly hit on the air show schedule here. So that those dates are out: Wednesday, July 2nd to Sunday, July 6th. We usually start preparing for that about 2 months out, but we're already getting into meetings and working on the planning process. So it's nearly a year-long process. As soon as the show ends, you've got to clean it up, and then you're already starting to look into the next year's show. So it should be a great show. The Thunderbirds will be back again. So you'll see the Thunderbirds. They're kind of the headliners. The F-35 is really the newest fighter jet in the Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps armament. So that'll be nice to have here. They've been here before. The F-18 Super Hornets, so it's the same aircraft that the Blue Angels fly. It's just not the Blue Angels, so it'll be the U.S. Navy F-18 Super Hornets will be here. And then what you're used to seeing at the air show, just the complement of civilian performances, the carnival, the balloon show. So should be a fantastic year. We're very excited. We're already, again, working with the show to figure out how we can make it better, how we can help with crowd control, how we can help with traffic flow. So we've already had meetings on that, but the website's up. it's got a lot of preliminary info on there, but again, the dates July 2nd to July 6th. It's always that 4th of July week or weekend that it's sitting on, so that hasn't changed. Any air show questions? All right. And then just wanted to open it up. Are there any other questions in general? I did want to mention too, you know, hopefully the weather, like I said, continues to work out. It was a pretty, I'd say a pretty good winter here, as you all know. Folks would be working on weekends, holidays coming in to clear off the snow, just like they were doing on the city streets. So we're happy that hopefully that's for the most part done. I'm sure we'll catch a stray, you know, snowstorm between here and the end of winter. But again, just wanted to mention that the staff here is doing a great job. They continue to work on issues that we see or we bring up. We're trying to make things a little safer and a little more efficient here. We're hoping that again in the future, maybe the next update, we'll have some more things to talk about in terms of development or anything else going on with the tenants. But yeah, we're very excited. It was a great year last year. We're hoping that 2025 is still the same. And with that, I can take any other questions or we can move on to the next item.
Hey, Phil.
Yes, Ted.
So I'm curious, just out of curiosity, this is an interesting photo. Any idea what year this was taken?
Yes, this is 1992. Thank you.
1992. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So if and Ted, I don't know if you were with the city in 1992. You probably weren't because you were a young teenager in 1992.
Well, this photo even predates me, which is pretty amazing. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So you can see just to give you guys some reference. This is looking north, roughly north. North is kind of here. This is kind of northeast as we're looking here. You can see the guard base here. They still obviously had the A-10s. Western wasn't even here yet, but they would be eventually way over in the distance. And you can see the development start to happen just over here. The city offices were really over here. I mentioned that road that came through. You can kind of see pieces of that. You can see how Columbia bent through. But the parallel runway actually currently kind of runs through to about here. So it goes up from the approach of the 1331 and comes over here. Yeah, 1992 was the comment that was on here, really the tag on it. So yeah, still a lot of development. You can see some of the land that's being, you know, flattened over here and the trees that were removed, and then some of the development that started here. All this area is now fully developed. There's even some development, you know, where our offices are here, and then obviously this over here. So just a tremendous accomplishment for everybody that's been a part of this city over the past, you know, several decades to see where this airport's evolved from. So yes, great question, Ted. All right. With that, I'll put the agenda back up. There we go. And I didn't, we can, like I said, I did mention earlier that we usually do just kind of the next meeting and I give some dates. This one, I wanted to really just offer kind of the rest of the year, if that was okay with folks. If it's not, or if it's too much, we certainly don't have to do that. We can kind of just stick to the June meeting. These are all Tuesdays. They'd be at 1 o'clock. I should have added that on there, but the 13th and 10th, 2nd and 9th, and then 2nd and 9th of December. The 2nd of September is pending for me right after Labor Day. I don't know if that's an issue for folks, or if that's too much, you know, we can pass on that. But I guess I'll leave it up to you, Commissioner Lance, if you want to just talk about these dates, or if you want to do them one at a time, or however you want to slice that up.
Does I guess what I would look at is June. Does anyone have a strong preference?
This is Kara. I'd like the 10th more than I would the 3rd of June.
Anyone else? 10th it is. September 2nd or 9th. Anyone have any preference?
I prefer the 9th, but
9th it is. 9th it is. And then December, I would prefer the 9th. I'm gonna be gone the 2nd, so December 9th. There you have it.
All right, perfect. And Penny will send out those calendar holds for everybody, and we'll continue to send out the information before those meetings.
Well, thanks, Phil, for the nice presentation and photo discussion. Is there any public comment? Anyone making public comment?
We currently have no one in the waiting room, Commissioner Lance.
All right, thank you. Are there any comments by the board? Lovely. Okay, with that being said, I think we're adjourned, folks. Thank you all for attending. Enjoy.